Alibaba's Qwen didn't end Western AI dominance overnight. That would be too tidy. What it did do may matter more. It showed the AI race isn't just about who's got the most GPUs anymore, or the biggest data center, or the most lockdown model. The race is shifting. It's about platforms now. Efficiency, open weights, agents that actually do things, and whether you can turn a model into real money moving through a real economy. For 2 years, the story has been the silicon moat. America controls the best chips. Nvidia owns the hardware. The frontier models come out of American labs. Export controls keep China away from the top-shelf GPUs. So the logic went, choke the chips, choke the models. Alibaba's Qwen family is making that logic sit a little less comfortably. Not because hardware suddenly stopped mattering. It still matters. A lot. The best chips matter, the data centers matter, the export controls matter. But Qwen is showing that compute restrictions don't automatically freeze China out. Chinese labs are pushing back the only way they can, harder on efficiency, on mixture of experts' designs, on open weights, on cheaper deployment, on models built to slot straight into real products. That's the crack. Start with Qwen 2.5 Max. January of last year, the Qwen team put up benchmarks against DeepSeek V3, GPT-4o, and Claude 3.5 Sonnet. The headline wasn't that Alibaba had run the table. It was simpler than that. A Chinese model from a Chinese cloud giant was now in the same conversation as the biggest names in the West. Perception shifted. Qwen stopped being a local assistant. It became part of the global frontier argument. Then Qwen 3 landed, and this is where things get a little disruptive. The Qwen team open-weighted a whole spread of models. The big Qwen 3 235B A22B mixture of experts model, and smaller dense ones all the way down to 0.6 billion parameters. All of it under Apache 2.0. Mixture of experts is worth pausing on. The model can carry a massive total parameter count but only fire up a slice of those parameters per token. In plain terms, you get something close to frontier-scale brains without paying the full electricity bill every time you ask it a question. That's the Silicon Shield problem in a nutshell. If the West's whole play is denying China the best chips, then Chinese labs end up with every reason in the world to squeeze more out of the chips they've got. More performance per chip, more intelligence per watt, more usefulness per dollar. Export controls don't only slow you down, they also make you sharper. We watched the same pattern with DeepSeek. Analysts argued DeepSeek's rise was proof China could close the compute gap with cleverness. Reuters reported recently that DeepSeek V4 had been adapted to run on Huawei Ascend chips, part of the broader push to get off the American hardware stack. DeepSeek still runs into hardware limits next to Nvidia, but the trajectory's pretty obvious. China is trying to build a model and chip stack that can live without us. Qwen is Alibaba's version of that pressure, except Alibaba has something the others don't. It isn't just a model lab. It's a cloud provider, an e-commerce giant, a payments-adjacent player, and one of the very few Chinese companies that can drop an AI model straight into a consumer workflow tomorrow morning. Which is exactly why the Taobao integration matters. Reuters reported this month that Alibaba is preparing to wire Qwen into Taobao, so users can browse, compare, and buy through a conversation instead of typing keywords into a search bar. Qwen would get access to the full Taobao and Tmall catalog, personalized recommendations, virtual try-ons, price tracking. That's not a chatbot feature. That's Alibaba turning Qwen into the front door of commerce. And here's where the Western race and the Chinese race start to diverge. In the West, the big models usually launch as a subscription, an API, an enterprise assistant, standalone things. In China, Alibaba can drop Qwen straight into a machine that already handles merchants, logistics, payments, customer service, the whole consumer loop. The model doesn't have to win on a benchmark. It can win by living inside the transaction. Alibaba started leaning that way earlier in the year. Reuters reported back in January that the Qwen app was upgraded so users could order food, book travel, and finish tasks inside the chat, without app hopping. That's the agentic shift right there. The AI isn't answering anymore. It's doing. Now look at the cloud numbers. Reuters reported this month that Alibaba expects to blow past its previous AI investment plan, up to 380 billion yuan over 3 years, because the spending is starting to pay back. Cloud Intelligence Group revenue up 38% year over year. AI products around 30% of external cloud revenue, with Alibaba saying that could top 50% inside a year. That's the business signal. Qwen isn't a research project. It's becoming cloud revenue, consumer engagement, enterprise tooling, platform leverage. AP also reported the cloud segment growing sharply while Alibaba kept pouring money into AI infrastructure, which makes this a much bigger story than new model dropped. The story is, Alibaba is spending like a hyperscaler and deploying like an ecosystem. That's why Western AI should be paying attention. OpenAI has model power. Google has model power and distribution. Anthropic has the enterprise trust angle and the safety lane. Meta has open weight reach. Alibaba has something else, a Chinese flywheel. Cloud, commerce, logistics, payments, merchants, consumers, and a government that very much wants them to keep going. The Qwen team itself got reorganized for speed. Reuters reported in March that Alibaba set up a new task force to accelerate foundation model work after Qwen division head Lin Junyang left. Later the same month, CEO Eddie Wu would personally take over a new AI business group folding in Tongyi Laboratory, the MAAS business line, Qwen, Wukong, and AI innovation. That tells you something. Qwen isn't a side bet anymore. It's a company-wide bet. Then Qwen 3.6 hints at what's next. Alibaba Cloud's Qwen 3.6 Max preview, out in April, is being pitched as a hosted proprietary frontier model. Stronger agentic coding, better tool use, more world knowledge, sharper instruction following, longer context. The Model Studio docs list newer flagship and multimodal models too, Qwen 3 Max, Qwen 3.5 Plus, with deployment regions like Virginia and Frankfurt. That matters because Alibaba's playing both sides of the table. Open weight models that pull in developers, hosted proprietary models that pull in cloud dollars, consumer integrations that pull in usage, enterprise platforms, and a political tailwind pushing them away from American AI. This isn't the end of the Western moat. It is the end of the simple version of the moat. The simple version said, control the chips, control the race. The new version is messier. Chips still matter. So does efficiency. Data, distribution, platform integration, open weights, local hardware adaptation, cloud pricing, developer ecosystems, consumer workflows. If China can't always get the Nvidia chips, fine. They'll compete on models that run cheaper, deploy easier, customize more openly, and sit deeper inside their own platforms. That doesn't make the chip war pointless. It makes the chip war less decisive on its own. This is the exact thing export controls were meant to prevent. A rival ecosystem learning to go around. The Council on Foreign Relations has argued China still has an AI chip deficit, that Huawei can't catch Nvidia yet. CSIS has said the same, that DeepSeek and Huawei don't cancel out the impact of the controls. Those cautions matter. China hasn't magicked the gap away. But the Qwen DeepSeek pattern shows you the other half of the story. Pressure creates adaptation. The real question isn't whether Qwen is better than every American model. Wrong question. The real question is whether Alibaba can make Qwen good enough, cheap enough, open enough, embedded enough, that it becomes the default AI layer for millions of developers, merchants, and consumers inside China and beyond it. If it can, the map changes. Not because some benchmark fell, not because somebody ended OpenAI, because the center of AI power starts drifting away from a handful of closed Western labs and out into competing platform ecosystems. The West still has the best chips, the deepest capital markets, some of the most powerful AI companies on the planet. But Qwen is proof that China isn't standing politely at the edge of the frontier. It's coming in through the side doors. Open weights, commercial deployment, agentic commerce, cloud, efficiency under pressure. The silicon shield didn't disappear, but it cracked. Stay sharp. Jane Sterling, Sterling Intelligence.